Hey, how are you?
They're good.
All right, just waiting for a few more people to get on.
Can y'all hear me okay? Yeah. I'm trying to turn my video on.
There we go.
Yeah, I am. Howdy, everybody.
Hey, how are you?
Good. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4.
I counted 6.
And I'm 7.
All right. I think you were my 6th.
Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I am 7. No, I'm 7.
Okay. Always a good idea to double check my counting. The reason I'm not in banking.
We're gonna have a halo behind my head. I turn my lamp off. So we're waiting for who else, Eric? I don't have my list in front of me. Krawcheck.
Ms. Krawcheck will not be here. She's out of town for this meeting. So Councilman Waring, Councilman Brady.
No, that's right. And Councilman Waring sent me a text. He's in a, yeah, he said he may jump in at 6.
All right. Mayor Tecklenburg. And I'm
Justin.
blanking. Justin, correct. Although he hasn't been on for the last 2 meetings. Also, Mr. DeStefano is not here.
Okay. Let's see if the I'm gonna text the mayor, see if he's jumping on. It's 5:35. Why don't we go ahead and get started? We're not gonna vote on the minutes. That's the only thing we need our approval.
Without 10 people, we can't vote on the minutes yet.
Right. Okay, so let's go ahead and call to order the meeting of the West Ashley Revitalization Commission. It is March the 9th. It is about 5:30 p.m. Welcome, everybody. And hopefully this is the last time that we will meet in Zoom. So I think that I am zoomed out.
It was an unfortunate situation where our best location was they opened up at just a little bit too late. I had already posted for the meeting, but next time we'll be at the East Ferry Library, which should be able to support us pretty well.
Yeah, and I appreciate Councilmember Brantley helping us, making sure that we've got plenty of elbow room, because I still think we need to have some kind of separation with that. So we're going to skip item number 2 and move into the market report, which is item number 3 on economic development. I see, there's Steve. Yeah, you shifted me over when you did the share screens, Eric. So I think, are you and Steve going to take this, or who else is?
Yes, sir. So Steve Dykes, the Charleston County Economic Development Director. I think that's your full title. He's going to be starting us off with just how the commercial and retail market is, or commercial and office market is looking in Charleston County in general. And then I'll be focusing in on what has occurred in West Ashley in the past year.
Okay. Steve, thank you for joining us. And I see you got your screen share ready to roll. So
Yeah, yes, sir. And thank you, Councilman. It's a real pleasure to be here with y'all this afternoon. I do appreciate the invite from Eric, and it's good to be back. I know this group has made a lot of progress, over the last couple of years. So glad to be with you as your partner. I've got a few slides put together that recount the economy that we've been encountering lately, and then to get down a little bit more into the economic indicators and the real estate outlook. And then I think I will conclude my remarks, with some specific comments about West Ashley. And I think it dovetails, you'll find that it dovetails pretty nicely into what Eric's prepared, where he goes into quite a bit more depth with the real estate in West Ashley. So I guess we'll get the slides rolling, and I do appreciate someone else driving on that. So we'll go to the second slide.
Eric, are you the driver?
Excuse me?
It says Eric, the driver.
Yeah, Eric's driving, which I
Okay.
love to be driven. If there's a way to screw up a technological presentation, I can usually come through. So I do appreciate the chance to share these duties with the city staff. This, just to start us off and remind you who we are, the Economic Development Office at Charleston County has a three-pronged mission that goes back to the Navy base closure in 1993. And it almost seems like a long ago ancient event to speak of at this point in time, but it was a defining moment at Charleston County, because that's when the county council decided to get into the economic development business at that time with just a one-person office. And so from that point forward, over the course of 30 years, we're now a 10-person office, with quite a bit more chops than in that early stage. The mission is really three-pronged. It's to recruit new business, grow existing industry, and improve the Charleston business climate. Very, very simple and straightforward. That has not changed much over the years. What each of those things means has grown deeper, but they are still the same three prongs to the mission. And the results have been pretty outstanding with our businesses since that time. That's a byproduct of a lot of groups working together, the CRDA, Charleston County, the Chamber, Explore Charleston. I mean, there's just the municipalities who have been essential partners with us since day one. It's been everybody, tugging at the till together that's made this all work. And our companies have really thrived. And I think what we can be really proud of is the diversity, the diversification that's occurred since those days when we were so top heavy with the Defense Department folks in the Navy. So going to the next slide, I wanted to give you a taste of what happened last year. It was really a pretty astounding year in the sense that we had job creation by our companies. We had 21 announcements that our office worked with that occurred in Charleston County as a whole. And I think what's remarkable about these slides or these corporate logos, frankly, is the fact that they represent big business, as in Mercedes-Benz and Cummins, but they also represent a brand new airline that came to town, and they get down to small Charleston-owned businesses that expanded. We've got a major call center that moved into town. We've got a unique aerospace company that came into town, and I think the most remarkable part is like no other year I can remember, they were spread from one end of the county to the other. There's some areas in the county where announcements don't happen all that often. And even those parts of town, had an announcement last year. Now I do have to caveat my optimism with the fact that the West Ashley entry, Gray Ghost Bakery, as many of you have heard, has closed doors. And, that is a sad development in light of the fact that they've been in town for about 6 years. They were founded by a couple of folks out of Columbia who brought their operation originally to James Island. And we were really excited about their announcement just last July that they were moving into the former True Value store on Wapu Road. They made a almost $400,000 investment, or at least that was the game plan. And they were on tap to hire 25 new workers. And it was pretty startling over the last couple of weeks to realize something was wrong over there. I will tell you, we've reached out to the owners thus far unsuccessfully. So I don't really have much of an update on what exactly happened there. But Eric and I were both commenting that we plan to keep our eye on it and keep calling folks until we do know exactly where everything stands with that. But kind of a sad footnote to what had looked like a real, promising project. I think I will also give you a quick update on one that has a better ending, and that's Charles River Labs. Eric, later in the presentation, has got some renderings and some actual photographs of the construction underway out there. And he'll have more to say about the specifics there. But just to remind you, Charles River Labs, which is more or less directly across the road from the Gray Ghost site, is a long-term success story. Came to West Ashley in the 80s, the late 80s. And that company was a byproduct of the R&D that goes on down at MUSC. There was an MUSC scientist that pioneered the use of the blood of horseshoe crabs as a element in drug research. And the properties of that blood is that it clotted on contact with certain impurities. And that became the leading product for Charles River back in those early days. Charles River is out of Boston, and they came down and quickly acquired this new startup company in the late 80s, knowing that it was good for their portfolio. And I think, frankly, knowing that it was bad not to acquire them. So they've been there in West Ashley since the late 80s. They systematically acquired most of that business part before buying the whole thing. They had leases at one time, of over 50% of the space, and then finally, engineered a complete buyout of that property. As you all may know, they make essential products for pharma and the biotech world. And I just mentioned that one really odd manifestation is the horseshoe crabs. This particular project, around 11 million capital investment was announced. They have plans to add 180 new employees. And obviously COVID and supply chain things have gotten in their way and kind of stalled things so far. But the happy news is they're back on track. So Eric will have a little bit more to say about that later in the presentation.
Hey, Steve.
Yes, sir.
When you're announcing these new companies coming into Charleston County, is there a criteria as to the size of these companies that y'all are looking at? In other words, if there's a independent insurance agency that opens up, or a law firm opens up, are y'all counting those kind of service companies as well?
No, sir. The criteria mainly has to, it can be a locally owned company, but we're typically going to just be talking about manufacturing, distribution, and R&D type projects. And those would include software makers and electronic engineering and that type of thing. It's basically the types of businesses that could be incentivized under the state code. Now, having said that, please understand that every company that we announce has not gotten incentives, and there's a whole slate of services we offer. And for example, with Gray Ghost, we had struck up a relationship with them. We were counseling them on workforce development assets that were available to them, programs. And then it turned out that the biggest way we could help them last July was to help them get the attention of the Commerce Department to put this announcement out. The announcement is really valuable, coming out of Columbia, because it's picked up by all the major wire services, and it spreads the word near and far, which a lot of companies value because of what it does for their hiring. So that was the type of assistance that was offered there. But as you look over this slate of logos, you've got Cannonboro Craft Soda is a local beverage maker, considered a manufacturer, doing a lot of distribution beyond Charleston now at this point. Home Depot distribution, Elbit Systems is a manufacturer, Argents is a distributor. Your Crawl Space is an example of another manufacturing and service related company that is local. They're out in Allendale, and MC Dean is in the defense space. Breeze, of course, is the new airline that brought us yet some more good news this week, with the flights out to San Francisco and Las Vegas. Bourne Group is a manufacturer. Raymont Logistics is a Canadian company that is coming to the port of North Charleston, and distributing. And then Omatic is a software company. T-Mobile is obviously a telecom company. So that's the variety of the kind of folks we work with. And County Council made a pivot several years ago to encourage our department to work with local companies. And we struck up a relationship back at that time with Low Country Local First. And they've really been very helpful in pointing out companies to us and referring companies to us that met the criteria, for the types of companies that we can help. So that's the long answer, I guess, to a short question.
I did not mean to derail you that bad, but thank you.
No. All right, let's go to the next one. And this, I just wanted to give you a quick update on this year in progress. There's one announcement here that you'll be happy about. We've had 3 so far, and you can see the totals that it adds up to. But Bentelli, as many of you know, is a West Ashley company located on Savannah Highway, 2137 Savannah Highway. And they announced just the other day, or last week, March the 1st, an expansion where they'll be spending about $450,000 and hiring 72 additional workers over there at Savannah Highway. And that'll be making cost-effective golf carts, scooters, and electric shuttles. This is a little company that came to us back in 2015. They've really been in the area only 7 years, but came to us from Gainesville, Florida. And young entrepreneur, called us up and was kind of hedging his bets between Gainesville and Charleston. And luckily we were able to talk him into, staking his dream here. And it's worked out real well for them. They've tripled the staff since they got here in 2015. So that's a good piece of news for West Ashley. We'll go to the next one, Eric. So I'll shift now and talk about overall economic trends just briefly. You'll notice that as we look at the labor market versus a year ago, we've had the unemployment rate obviously go very low again, down at 2.9%. And I think that won't surprise anyone when you hear all the stories about the talent scarcity in just about every aspect of the economy. Inflation, 7.5%. At a 40-year high. That's in the national news constantly. That being said, some of the things, despite these headwinds, some of the things that Charleston can really be proud of is the port activity, where you see the best year on record, up 20% as part of this whole supply chain boom, fueled by.
It's almost too good as a problem. They got too many of a backlog over there. They need some CDL guys and women.
Yeah, it's interesting how these things have two edges. But we've got as far as the real estate market goes, CoStar did a study of the markets in the United States that are 75 million square feet of industrial space or greater. And we came in second in total industrial space under construction as a percentage of the total industry. And so that's a ratio type measurement. But what it tells you is that industrial space in Charleston has just been booming, absolutely booming. And I'll drill down into that a little bit more in a slide that's coming up. Hotel activity. I think a lot of people are aware that the hotel industry here in Charleston has rebounded pretty nicely. now at a point where it's only about 3.5% off of 2019 levels. Likewise with the airport and visitors coming in, they're about 14% off of where it all started, when the pandemic commenced. So not too shabby despite some real serious headwinds. We'll just have to see where it stands about this time next year. We'll go to the next one, Eric. And so as I start, I'm going to talk about industrial and flex space, and then I'm going to talk about office. Some of the major findings on the MSA study on real estate trends is that the industrial market is so strong that many of the spec buildings being built may deliver to market with no more than 50% of the space already leased. Just red hot out there. Tenants are desperate for space now, and the timing of the occupancy has become a challenge. And so that's really unheard of when you can't get them up fast enough to accommodate schedules. We haven't heard that type of thing in a while. They've kind of shifted their taste to wanting more single occupancy buildings, or either to purchase their own sites or buildings. And as many of you know, in the real estate community in Charleston, it's extremely rare that anybody would want to sell an industrial building. Most of these industrial buildings are built and held for long-term play. So there are projects where we're challenged to come up with a site or a building to be purchased, and in many cases we just have to respond that we don't have product. So traveling on down that list, there's cautious optimism that this strong demand will persist for at least a year or more. And then I think I mentioned that Charleston ranks second in total industrial space under construction as a percentage of inventory. And that puts us right behind our nemesis, Savannah. So always healthy competition up and down the coast. We'll go to the next. And that's kind of zooming in again on the actual statistics of what I just described. We've got about 1.5 million square feet of industrial under construction, whereas in the prior period, the year before, it was only 400,000. So a lot of new product under construction. Net absorption, you can see, is also nearly double what it was in the previous period. And then in terms of vacancy rate, we've got the vacancy rate down to 4% from 5.7 a year ago. And important to a lot of the building owners, the market rent per square foot has gone up at $8.56, which is pretty impressive. So now turning to office, in terms of office, there's been a recovery in the office market with net absorption. Rental rates have been growing, and the vacant sublease space has declined. But vacancy is still high by historic standards. New office buildings, speculative buildings, are soon to deliver, and the new supply has started to moderate. And as I say that, it'll come to mind, many of the new products up and down Morrison Drive. Real impressive collection of offices going up through there. Mount Pleasant has had certainly its share of new product built near Patriots Point just recently. And as we look around, the types of calls we get are often for big floor plates. The users are looking for 25,000 or more square feet. Right now, as we look at what we have here available in Charleston, we've got several that have 50,000 or more. Some of them, however, are antiquated product that really has been sitting for a while. But you've got the former Verizon building, the Bank of America building on Meeting Street, Rivers Park, the converted Kmart space on Rivers where the VA has done its outpatient mail order business, Eagle Drive, which is on the footstep of Hanahan, and then some space on the Navy base. Some tenants have upgraded into new space, but others have reduced their space. And so I think there's a consensus that there is a return to the office. So that whole question that we all had earlier on about the pandemic, would it be the death of the office? I think that's quickly being dispelled, that thought. And here's the actual figures behind the office market across the area. We've got the amount under construction, as you can see, is down from what it was in the previous period. Net absorption is double what it was in the previous period. And the vacancy rate is largely unchanged. And I would say also that the market rent has ticked up only slightly. And so just to summarize, as we look at all this, there's many favorable economic and pandemic related trends that support continued improvement in industrial and office. The demand for industrial is strong, the supply is tight, but some additional square footage is on the way. Demand for office is improving, but with a couple of major projects absorbing the available space. And with quite a bit of new square footage coming in, both in the form of speculative and existing buildings. I think there's a topic too that I'll skip over that middle topic for just a moment and just go on to tell you that we've included a little bit of information about the airport authority. They have pioneered some future industrial space out at Johns Island Airport, which is aviation related, obviously, and even identified a parcel at the main airport that they've asked us to market. So that's another piece of the industrial pie for us. And also, we've got some what I would call hip pocket listings, and that's something that the mayor may chuckle when I make that reference, but it's a real estate listing that's known to the realtors, but it's kind of kept on the down low. So we've got some of the information I'm describing does not include those types of hip pocket listings where they may not be listed. Now going back to the middle bullet up there, I talk about multiple non-traditional sites being marketed for redevelopment. What I'm referring to there is vacated shopping centers and commercial reuse type properties. The town of Mount Pleasant has identified a list of those and made us aware of them. North Charleston, we don't have that type of list, but we do understand they're turning their attention to infill sites. And then obviously Eric and I have been working together to identify sites in West Ashley that would be ripe for multi-use redevelopment. And so that effort continues in earnest. And I think that, what else I would say about that is that economic development is obviously a team sport. We say that and have said it for years. And I know it sounds cliche to some, but it's going to be a long range proposition for Eric and I to work together and for city and county to work together, I think, with all the tools that we mutually have at our disposal to create a vision over in West Ashley for IT, for life sciences, and things that could anchor West Ashley in the future. But to be starting out, from a real weak standpoint with no product over there. So that's really where my head is at, and that's where Eric's is at, is to continue to caucus in earnest with the developers that we know that do office development in Charleston, to talk to the realtors, keep our fingers on the trends, and to have some meetings, frankly, with some of the landowners out there to see what might be possible. We're intent on seeing what type of mixed-use development might be able to occur and attract IT companies, and what kind of partnerships could be formed, to potentially steer IT and market it as having its second home in West Ashley. There's no doubt that a lot of it is born downtown. A lot of it is born downtown, grows up in the neck. And so the question is, where does it go when it gets bigger and needs bigger floor plates? And we've seen that occur with folks like Benefit Focus and Blackbaud, which at one point I think Blackbaud was in all three cities. as they made their metamorphosis. So, this is where our head's at as Eric and I stay in touch with our teams. So I guess I'll entertain any questions, or I'll just shut up and let you move on to Eric.
Before we do that, so Steve, thank you for that very thorough report. I have a couple of questions, but I'm going to ask if any of my commission members have questions for Steve before we move on to Eric. They'll be shy, so I'll ask this question. And I see Ken is going to jump in a second, but while I'm thinking about it, so the numbers we're seeing with the COVID-19 pandemic have been very encouraging. I think that when we're talking about office space, we're seeing this resurgence of folks coming back to in-person meetings, and I would just presume that would be the reason for the uptake in the number of office space occupancy. Steve, are you seeing any other trends besides just that phenomena?
I'm not at the moment, so I have to believe that is what's causing it.
Okay, Kenneth, you
I would just like to comment, draw your attention to the comments. Mr. DeStefano mentioned that West Ashley tool rental is one that should be included, and I'd like to agree with that. It is a local business that's in our area, and they've been a great community partner so far. So I'd just like to recognize that.
Thanks. All right, we're going to jump into Eric. And
All right.
all right.
So should be on screen share now.
Yes, sir.
So this is whereas Mr. Dykes looked at the Charleston region, Charleston County area as a whole. This one definitely focuses in more on West Ashley, as would be appropriate for the my role with the city. So for West Ashley, so we have about 7.2 million square feet of retail, 2.6 million square feet of office. So that's that 2.6 million square feet would be part of the 25.6 million that Steve noted to on his presentation. For all that millions of square feet, we have about 287,000 of retail vacant, 122,000 of office that are vacant, which puts us at vacancy rates right around 4.6 to 4.7. The retail area in general, it generalized, we are at 4.6, which is very good for retail. Some of our neighborhood centers are at a little bit of a higher vacancy rate. And so what the platform CoStar terms as neighborhood center would be something like the St. Andrews Plaza or Ashley Landing Plaza, the larger anchored centers that we have. So we do have a little bit higher vacancy in some of our neighborhood centers. However, our general retail is extremely low. So that would be standalone spaces. That's at 1% vacancy, which is, that's all very good. You actually want to be about 4% to 6% vacancy, because that allows you to have a little bit of turnover as things come online. People are moving in pretty quickly right away afterwards. When it comes to the office, we have very little in class 4 and 5 or class A space that is vacant right now. And then our class, our 3-star and 1-2-star does go up a little bit more. That would be more the general market rate classes for office. So class A would be very high tech. Class B and C would be much more your standard law offices, could move into those other not quite as high tech markets.
Eric,
However,
are you including these offices that have been converted from a residence into commercial space as well?
So the program CoStar does pick up a few of those. It kind of hops back and forth between large footprint and those standalone offices. So this might not reflect a 100%, but yes, those offices tend to fall under the class B, which would be the 3-star market for this.
Okay.
At the average price of $25 per square foot, West Ashley is in a very affordable range for office right now as well. When it comes to retail net absorption, we're very good. This is exactly what you want to see, which is as things are coming online, they are being leased out really rapidly. Something to be aware of that the current trend right now for 2022 is that we actually have very little coming online in the coming year. We do have some spaces that are opening up, but that means there will be a slight pinch when it comes to new construction, which will eventually lead to more new construction or renovation down the line. And we actually see the same thing with our offices. It's same kind of deal. As things come online, they are being absorbed quite rapidly. When it comes to rental rates, both retail and office are right where you want them to be in terms of how much the price per square foot is going up over the years. When it comes to office, West Ashley is quite marked below downtown Charleston for price per square foot. And let's see. So here's the price per square foot for retail in the Charleston city region, and red would be West Ashley. So we're a little bit tighter compared to that one. And so what does that kind of translate into? A lot of those numbers, or what some of the big stuff coming online that's going to help drive the market. One of them is the Sharing Hope building. So We Are Sharing Hope is a organ and tissue donation center. I believe right now they are off of Leeds Avenue in one of the industrial parks up there. They're expanding into West Ashley in their own large purpose-built Class A office space. This one's a very fantastic and beautiful job of mixing both the architecture and the landscape around it, which is beneficial because a lot of their clients tend to have to be there for a very long length of stay for when they're there for their procedures. So this one's under construction right now. These are photos I took 2 days ago. So they are moving along very quickly. I don't quite have a ETA on when it's going to be open, but they're rapidly progressing for finishing it up. This is one that also Mr. Dykes had talked about, Charles River Labs. This is their expansion for their administration building. So they're shifting their administration offices from being where the warehouses are currently over back here. They're shifting all those into this purpose-built structure, so that way they can also increase the amount of administration workforce. And what that also allowed them to do is go through and reskin the outside of those existing structures and expand their laboratory space by putting in better windows, better wall systems that seal off the outside. So it's this one's about a 30,000 square foot new construction building that's coming on, and very excited to see that one progressing. So they were held up by the pandemic. They were just about to do groundbreaking in March of 2020, but they had to kind of pump the brakes on that, but they are going strong. And the last one to kind of look out for in 2022, this is the Northbridge Executive Park. So here's Sam Rittenberg Boulevard over here, Old Town Road over here, and the lovely scissor interchange of them. They will be having a new 2-story, 15,000 square foot office structure coming in. They went through our design review board last year. I believe their preliminary approval was in February of 21. And they've just been going through our technical review committee and are getting very close to being able to pull their building permits. As you go down Sam Rittenberg, you'll see that they have silt fencing up along the edge of the property already, which this is fantastic to have new construction office coming in right across the way from our Sumar Street project, which will have more office included in it as part of the private sector development. So that's going to help feed interest in people locating into offices around here. Some other notable commercial that's just kind of really taken off. We have the Shelbourne office building right here, medical office. So they're Class A medical office, and they have been filling in quite nicely. So Shelbourne, which is the dentist company that constructed it, has the largest footprint in the building. However, they did just have a new compound pharmacy move in, the Pharmacy Club. So that's going to help again, continue more medical coming in that way. And then of course we have the Victory, which is finally online in Avondale. And they actually have 4 of their 5 spaces leased out now. So there's the one that's currently open and operating. Poke Bury is up and running. However, there's also Sweat House, which is getting close to being operational. That's an infrared sauna. Ruby Slipper is coming in, which they'll have this anchor spot here. That's going to be a breakfast restaurant. And then in this little spot back here, the second story is actually a WeWork center. So that's a co-working space that they were able to bring in up there. So just more interest and more activity coming on in.
You didn't put in turbo, Eric.
I apologize on that. I should have put Turbo Cone onto that. They did do a very beautiful renovation right up the way from the Shelbourne office, as well
Turbo's
as
the ice
having,
cream place I'm talking about, everybody.
correct. As well, they have a office structure adjoining them that is up for lease,
That's
I
right.
believe.
Right.
So last year, just to run through some of the city numbers regarding business development, we had 2,300 businesses that were registered with the city. 308 of them were from professional and information services. So that would be the operations that Steve could interact with in terms of helping find office locations and things of that nature. Another thing I saw very interesting is we had 120 restaurant and food truck permits that were registered to West Ashley. So we definitely like to eat out in West Ashley. So
We could use some more.
yes, always. Oh, very big area. So of course, when it came to brand new business licenses issued last year, 58% of them were actually for home occupation, which is a trend that continued from when COVID struck. A lot of people started up side businesses that they could run out of their homes. So this kind of continued that trend. After that, we had commercial, non-food and beverage at 146 licenses issued, and 21 food and beverage, new food and beverage licenses were issued. So, and then just in general to show kind of what the trend has been in West Ashley since, really since Plan West Ashley was finalized. I believe this number is so low because we had shifted our permit review process or our software that year. So I don't think that number is fully true. However, we'll just start from 2017 over here where there were 920 new licenses issued. And you can see that we just continue that trend of being right around there. Even the year of COVID here, we went down a little bit, but that's still very strong for new licenses coming on. And that's that.
That was pretty thorough. That was very good.
I try to be both thorough and quick.
Yes. So commission members, any questions for Eric? Or you get one more pass at Steve as well. So I think that showing the new offices and new businesses coming in, Eric, is very important, particularly in the pandemic area. Mr. Mayor.
So I just had a question. You had so many new businesses licenses listed, but I'm sure you were losing some or others that didn't renew. So what's the total number of active licenses from year to year? Do you know?
From year to year, I do not have that. I just know that it was 2,300 in 2021. So
Yeah. I just was curious whether that was a trend up or down of the total number. Might be worth asking.
Yes, sir. I can inquire with
Yeah.
our business license folk. folks.
While I got the floor, I want to thank Steve for his presentation and his work with the county. We worked together now for many years, and Steve, you do a remarkable job, and the county has enjoyed a lot of employment growth since you've been at the helm. And y'all just, I know the absorption rate on office might be a little low right now, but unemployment is at a historic low, and the vacancy rates West Ashley for both office and retail are about as low as they come, really. I mean, so it seems like a very healthy market, so that if prices haven't like ballooned, which you've shown, they show a moderate increase. I think it's pretty stable, healthy market. It's a good thing.
Mhm.
I think it is
It is.
too, but I'd like to see some more Class A office buildings over there. But it's a good trend what we're looking at. Mary Peters, did you have any? I saw your square light up, so I wasn't sure if that was a question or.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm interested in the apartment occupancy rates in West Ashley and the building of those investments. Do we have anything about that?
So apartment occupancy rates, we encountered this when we were going through our city plan last year and the year before. Apartment occupancy rates are very hard to get a hold of, mainly because each business kind of likes to hold it secret to themselves. They don't want the competition to know, how many units they have open and not. So it kind of gets difficult to pinpoint that, but that is something that we can look into.
Yeah, because it would certainly fill the need and be interesting to look at, as well as the office occupancies.
All right, that's I can ask around about that one, Ms. Peters.
Thank you.
Charlie, you had a comment or question?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Eric and Steve, can y'all talk a little bit about what we might do to get some of these larger problematic vacant parcels absorbed? Such as, I'm thinking particularly of the Wapu Road and Savannah Highway, and then of course Jimmy Palacios has got sites. He's got about 10 acres that are contiguous over in DuPont. And there are several others that we spoke about at the last meeting, but I just, particularly Steve, I'd like to get your thoughts and Eric's thoughts on what we could do to help get some interest in the redevelopment of these vacant sites.
So Steve, do you want to, I guess, but before you dive in, Steve, Charlie, those are definitely all properties that I am in constant contact with in terms of trying to figure out how to get some investment going on them. I know Mr. Palacios has some drainage issues given the DuPont Wapu Basin. Limehouse is one that we have been working with very closely the past 2 years. So that would be where the bikeway and Savannah Highway and Wapu Road come together. That's another one we've been working with very closely. And we're getting closer on, if you guys remember, I think we talked about it a year or two ago about the potential of getting the bikeway actually shifted around so it's a contiguous parcel for the Limehouses, and we're getting closer on that one. And then for a lot of the other stuff, it's I'm just constantly kind of checking in. There's only sadly, I can be a cheerleader, but that's about it for a lot of these projects. But Steve, if you have some additional ideas for how we can continue to interact and encourage.
Well, Eric, I would first of all second wholeheartedly what you just said. It is a painstaking property by property discussion. And, we were focused at one time on the shopping center there at Northbridge, understanding that the owner there might be amenable to some office space. And that I've considered that to be a good breakthrough if that could happen, just because I think you've got the ingredients at a place like that, where you've got a Starbucks, you've got some out parcels with restaurants, you've got a brewery at the other end of the shopping center, and it really starts to come together pretty well for IT to come in there, because that is the kind of stuff they like to be surrounded by. That I was taught that from a very early age by the IT people, is that they're looking for a place that's walkable to all those different amenities. And I think that's one reason they have been so fond of downtown Charleston and the neck. I think the other thing Eric and I have talked about that we want to explore deeper is, what does it take to build something like Pacific Box and Crate? I mean, that's a development I'm totally fascinated with, and been there many times. We have a relationship that, our existing industry division goes to see Boomtown quite a bit. And so, we're looking into how that all came together and whether there's the potential for that type of thing in West Ashley. It's exciting to think that some of these undeveloped or these, worn sites that need to be redeveloped could go in that direction. But it's, I wish I had a manual as to how to get there quick. I think it's just lots of dialogue. And then I think there does come a time where the city is certainly in the catbird seat to guide the zoning discussion and guide the development discussion to, bring that to the table as an enticement. We certainly, the county, when the companies qualify, the county could bring incentives to the table. We've got that's in our quiver, but we can't do that until we get to the point of the commitment of the product.
So one thing that we have recently done, which I'll bring up again in the Sumar Street update, we did actually go through and an incentive for some redevelopment at these former shopping centers is we now have a Urban Land Institute shared parking allowment for general business properties in the city. And so what that does is that brings us up into competition with Mount Pleasant, North Charleston. They both have those on records, and it allows these centers to optimize their parking field by overlaying daytime uses and nighttime uses. And they don't have to be providing, for example, they don't have to provide spaces for 200 vehicles to park for a restaurant and 200 vehicles to park for an office that closes by 5, because they would use the same parking spaces. So they can swap out in the evening. So that should help as we get the word about that more. That can help massage some of these centers into being advantageous to repurpose their existing boxes, as well as putting in new out parcels or partial demolition and constructing slightly more vertical up or things of that nature.
Let me ask you a question, Charlie.
Yes, thank you very much.
Let's move on to the Sumar Street progress. Eric, if you can.
All right, give me 1 second to swap out to that one. So this is on PowerPoint. So can I get someone to verify that you can actually see the title slide?
Yes, got it.
All right, sounds good. So this is not exactly what I would call a glamorous update. There's no fancy new pictures or anything like that, but I did feel it was important to let you guys know what the status of the Sumar Street site is. So we had our memorandum of understanding signed between Landmark Enterprises and us, the city, in September of 21. After that, pre-development diligence started. So we reviewed the scope of work between Leolio, their selected phase 1 environmental assessment, their geotechnical, as well as some other additional mapping. We reviewed those. We saw that we needed some clarifications and addendums put into those, which took about an extra 2 months or so to work through those contract negotiations with them on that one. So December of 21 is really when the consultants were set loose to start working on their pre-development phase. And so we had some additional talks with them about parking and site constraints, some of previous data that they needed from the city, as well as continuing to talk about refining the square footages for the city space itself. In January of 22, phase 1 continued on their progress. So they went through programming and preliminary site design with Leolio, starting research and precedent study. They started researching for neighborhood outreach, as well as doing some site massing and modeling. Geotechnical, they started the geotech report. And so what that does is that looks at the substrata to see what type of foundation work and everything else that's needed for the building to stay up and not sink. Environmental, so this being a redevelopment site, the environmental research was very critical, because the last thing we want is for us to start construction and stumble across a old oil tank or grease trap that we didn't know about. So they have been going through and documenting all the previous uses for the site and any environmental hazards that will have to be mitigated during construction. And then we started talking about some possible solutions for the parking that would occur on site, which is when we landed on the idea to pursue the ULI shared parking standard, as opposed to requesting a variance or immediately requesting shared parking allowances across the street. We first want to go with this shared parking route. So February of 22, they completed the work for phase 1, so that they have the environmental assessment and they'll be using that going forward. They also have the geotech is completed. Like I said, we landed on the ULI shared parking standard. And then we continue to hone in on precedent studies on neighborhood outreach scheduling, as well as some additional massing digital media. March of 22, Leolio put together a very narrow, very small, I should say, neighborhood outreach that was neighborhood presidents, as well as I invited Commissioner Moralda, Commissioner Smith to come along to the meeting, as they are extremely active when it comes to the design review board. So at that, it was, like I said, very small. The intention was really more about putting up all these precedent studies that they had done for different areas to get an idea of the feel of the construction when it goes in. So they had, streetscaping from downtown Charleston, streetscaping from Freshfield, streetscaping from Avondale, and asking people, what do they want that, which of these align more closely with the feeling that they want the area. So they put a bunch of different, open green spaces out for people to just kind of look over as a way to guide it. So that way it gave Leolio kind of some guardrails, some bumpers to work within. And then this later this year, we'll be seeing the actual conceptual design that's going to emerge from that, coming to the design review board, as well as the commission and city council.
Okay.
And just some photos of the event. So you can see, as I was saying, just a bunch of different pictures that were talked about what people like about them. And that is the Sumar Street update. As I said, nothing really fancy or sexy, just progress update.
It's I was going to use the word splashy. So, but the thing that I just want to impress upon the public and particularly our commissioners is that it is progress. We're on a timeline. The memorandum of understanding with Landmark has specific benchmarks that we're very much aware of, and Eric has been a good taskmaster with that, making sure that we're on point and we're meeting those deadlines. We were on a Zoom call with the mayor and several other folks earlier today to discuss some of the square footage for the city spaces. So it seems like a snail's pace. It's frustrating, but we're heading in the right direction with that. And that's the positive side of those. So commissioners, any questions for Eric about where we are with Sumar Street and the progress we're making with that? All right. Eric, I see two questions on the chat down here. One is about the ETA on Sharing Hope, and I see that you want to answer that live.
Well, I already did. I'm not sure what the ETA on them opening is.
Okay.
But they are they're finishing up. Their construction fencing's coming down, so that means that they're getting closer and closer.
Okay. And Ms. Brenda Liederman had a long question. I'll try to answer that best I can, Ms. Liederman, is that the city and the county have been working well together. We floated several plans to address what has been called the SUMAR, or the suicide merge, and that there is those plans got shot down by the various neighborhood associations. As we went through that, I think that seems like ancient history to me. But with Councilmember Brantley Moody's assistance, the county has approved an overall plan. It's going to address a lot of these intersections and to create connectivity with a lot of the intersections. Without going into great detail with that, but it is going to address the Orange Grove Road, Sam Wittenberg intersection, Donahue, Charlestown Estates, and Old Town Road. I am drawing a blank on Amberley Street, I think, as well, and a bike path that goes behind the old bylaws. So there are, and Sumar Street itself is going to be improved as well. So you'll see a lot of connectivity on that. And just remember that the Sumar Street property had a grocery store, which was a heavily trafficked area. And so we're not adding more traffic. I actually think that we've got planned for that is going to have a calming effect with the type of passive occupancy at this site, and with these improvements is going to be able to improve some of the traffic flow along that area as well. So we're not going to the negative, we're going into positive with Liederman. So rest assured that we're addressing that with all of these concerns in mind. Eric, were there any other other comments that we got online or email?
No emailed comments today. No phone calls. No, nothing submitted online either. Right. So that would take us to our other business, which I just want to use that time, if you don't mind, if you don't mind, sir, is to kind of let some of our commissioners talk about the good work that they've been doing in the West Ashley district, both for the local area as well as some upcoming events. So Teresa and or Ken, if you could talk about the Palms Apartments outreach and what West Ashley Connects has done to help all the residents that were impacted by that.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start. Actually, Ken, if you'll go ahead and give the Palms update, and then I'll give my county update.
Sure. So the last month, it's I think a little bit over a month now, Teresa and I have been working with the residents of the Palms apartment fire to help them basically build their lives again, rebuild their lives. So it started with an effort at Citadel Mall, where the mall donated us space. and there were several pods. And you may have read in the news that different businesses in the area, including West Ashley Tool Rental and Software Design Solutions, hosted these pods where physical donations were deposited and then they were consolidated at the mall. From there, we set up a relief center where the supplies were organized in terms of clothing, toiletries, household goods, back to school items for kids, pets, and non-perishable goods. And the residents were able to come and basically shop for what they needed. We even had shopping carts that the mall let us use so they could go around with their shopping carts, small furniture items, and everything from detergent to canes. There was a custom need for a cane one of the residents had. So we kind of used the resources that we were given to get the things that they needed for them. So that was kind of the initial step in getting them the immediate needs. And now we're focusing more on the long-term needs. So they're going to need a new place to live. And many of them are finding apartments, but there are still economic challenges like security deposits, first month's rent, application fees, kind of economic barriers. This is a middle income demographic, a lot of food and beverage workers. And some of them didn't even get full deposit refunds, not because they didn't give full deposits in the first place, actually because they did not give full deposits in the first place. The apartment complex didn't require it. So the complex refunded everything they had, but it wasn't enough for a new place for them to live, to put down a deposit. So those are some of the economic challenges we're trying to help them with.
Thanks, Ken, for staying on top of that and
Sure.
explaining that was a real tragedy, but it could have been a lot worse of a tragedy. And the community response to that was just really overwhelming. A lot of thanks to Westminster Presbyterian Church and to Northbridge Baptist Church for their assistance with this response as well. Teresa, did you want to add to what Ken just mentioned?
Absolutely. You're right about Westminster. So the Red Cross passed their baton to Westminster up until that Saturday. And then Westminster passed it to us. And we took it from there as the intake center. We're currently working with the city as much as possible with Gianna and others. Shannon Scaff, I actually spoke to him today for larger barriers that they may have. So a big thanks to the city for that. But we're down to about 9 residents or family units still in a hotel, and hopefully they won't be soon.
It just highlighted again the availability of good, decent, attainable housing options throughout the area, and a lot of the residents who were displaced in there were long time. This is not a transitional apartment complex. These are folks who have been there for years. One gentleman I think had been there for 30 years, or maybe even longer, if I recall that correctly. So it displaced a lot of longtime residents, and them finding alternate spaces that were within their price range has been difficult. So Teresa and Ken, thank y'all for your assistance with this as well. Okay, Eric, any other business?
I believe Teresa also has an update regarding working between the city, county, and DOT on some of the beautification efforts around the area.
Yeah, so first I'd like to thank Councilman Brantley Moody. He got me in touch with Christine Durant, who is the Deputy Administrator for Community Services. I've been working with her, with Daryl Davis. He's Charleston County Director of Housing and Neighborhood Revitalization. And we are formulating plans now, and this will come back when we set up our meeting to move forward with our outline. We're also going to be working with Jim Armstrong. He is the Deputy County Administrator of Transportation and Public Works, and his project officer, Kevin Limehouse. And this is directly for signage within our gateways, which are SCDOT and county land. So they're going to be a huge help, help moving forward with this. So again, that'll come back when we first start meeting.
Very good.
All right.
Okay.
So the one last thing I had, this is in, first we had an extremely successful Ukrainian support event occur. Eurofood sponsored it. It was took place actually on the Sumar Street parcel. Extremely successful event. They were able to fill the tractor trailer completely in the first day. So we had that Ukrainian support effort. I was contacted today by Casey Bramhall. She is going to be looking to create another Ukrainian support effort, this time in the Avondale district. And this one, instead of gathering goods, and it's going to be an effort to gather donations submitted to places such as Ukrainian Crisis Legal Aid, Sunflowers of Peace, Doctors Without Borders, several monetary donations. And the idea is on March 18th to line Savannah Highway in the Avondale district with Ukrainian flags to show support for Ukraine, as well as doing the donations, which would then get some type of discount or other proceeds from the bar and or restaurant serving you moving forward. So we're still in the works for that one. But like I said, I was notified today about it. We're working through and making sure everything is signed off, but excited for that, and keep your eyes out for some more information regarding that one. And Ms. Tidestrom has her hand up.
Yeah. Teresa?
I just wanted to give another update with that. So we partnered West Ashley Connects with Eurofoods, and we got a really amazing update today. We've got another shipping company, DN Pro. They have taken on the logistics of transporting by air. So the first tractor trailer will be loaded and flown out, with bringing the total cost down from $42,000 to $9,272.50. So we've got another half 18-wheeler ready to go, and we're going to be using the funds for medical supplies to fill that up, and that will be the next one going. And those medical supplies will be going straight to the hospitals and doctors. They have zero supplies right now, so that's the number one priority. So that's a great update.
Very good. The event on Saturday was well organized. It was put together rather quickly, but as Eric mentioned, they loaded that 18-wheeler in short time. So appreciate it. It was Ambassador Charleston coming out again. The support of the community was overwhelming, and God bless all of y'all who contributed. Eric, if you just want to send out those last dates and information, if you could, in the form of an email, I think that would be beneficial to everybody as well.
Will do. As it comes together, I'll notify all of you about it.
Very good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, don't want to belabor the point. Appreciate the information we got from Steve and Eric, and the updates from Ken and Teresa. Y'all's questions are very relevant and important. We're making good progress with West Ashley. And we will meet in person at our next meeting. Do we have a date, Eric?
I believe May, let me look it up because I'll probably say the wrong number. May 11th.
Okay. Mark your calendars, May 11th, library, in person. All right. Unless something changes dramatically, but we'll be in person.
Yes.
All right. Thank you all very much. Have a good evening. Y'all be safe, and we'll be back in touch.
Sounds great.
Bye,
Thank you all.
everybody.
Thank you all very much. Bye-bye.